So, hi everybody. I know this is very tough time for all of us. This sort of devastation and this sort of pandemic we have not seen in our generation, and I hopefully we won't be seeing this also. So, we just wanted to, from our side, wanted to help you to make you understand yourself and to see how well you'll be able to cope, or if you need help, or when to ask for help. That was our main aim of doing this presentation for today. So if you see that the mental health issues, there's a huge magnitude. So what's the magnitude? If you see, all of us are undergoing stress and all of us think, oh, it's not such a big deal. We can handle it. Some of them feel that way. Some of them feel it's very difficult to handle. We are not able to handle. So according to a study which was done, this meta-analytic study showed that it was done with healthcare workers. It showed that there was acute stress in almost 56% of the people. There was depression in 31%, as well as anxiety in 30%. And there was post-traumatic stress in almost 20%. And there were sleep disorders, insomnia in almost 44%. So this tells us that there is a problem, whether we are going to accept it or not. There is issues happening, and we don't want this going into long term, because we want you all to be healthy and serve more, do more, as well as have a good quality of life. That's the main reason of us doing this PPT today, this presentation today. So why is this so difficult? What is so difficult about it? All of us are undergoing this situation. Earlier, all of you were working people. Even though we were working, we were able to manage our house to a certain extent. Everything was fine. But now there's a lot of strain in the roles and the responsibilities. As a female, as a mother, as a father, even if you're not married, you have other roles and responsibilities which is getting strained due to the work schedule, due to no sleep, due to other issues, because of anxiety and because of stress. So that strain is creating a lot of problems with relationships within the family. If you see, especially with marital issues with husband and wife, especially if the partners are not from the same field and they don't understand the amount of stress you're undergoing in this, it becomes very difficult. And the family members also sometimes don't understand the small parts which is happening, or the details which is happening inside the wards there. Marital relationships are they're finding it very difficult. There have been a lot of studies been happening where the relationships are being strained because of the extra workload, because of the pressure and anxiety during this period of time. What else is happening? You see, we have been staying away from the family. It could be because of quarantine, it could be because we are infected, or it could be a lot of other reasons. It is very difficult to stay away. Suddenly a mother is not there in the house for 7 days. Imagine how the house is going to run. Or the husband is quarantined, all the other necessities of the family. It's not easy. As a healthcare worker, for y'all, seeing to the work, getting infected in the workplace and staying away from family becomes very difficult. Childcare. Both of y'all are working. Who's going to take care of the child? Will I infect the child? Will something else happen to our children? What to do about the child? It's very difficult to take care of children at this point of time for us as healthcare workers. Social isolation and stigma. Even though everybody claps.
Clearly say, I think it's a tire failure, same tire that failed.
Sorry, can I continue?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. So there is a lot of isolation and stigma in the society. Even though there is clapping of hands and salutes happening, it is still very difficult because going to a nearby shop, people don't like it. Your neighbors who are very friendly, talking to you, taking your help, don't want to speak to you anymore. Your children are not able to go to their house, and nobody wants to, even come somewhere close to you. It's not easy for us to take after taking so much of stress and strain and doing good in the hospital around over there. And also guilt. It's guilt of infecting the family. You go back and you have your elderly parents at home, or you have your children, you have your spouse, you're scared you're going to infect them. And, if somebody gets a fever, a cough, or cold, you feel that, it's because of you. So all of this is, there in the bag. Even though you say, no, I'm fine, still all these are small things which might probably affect you or, hurt you in some way or the other. There's a lot of emotional turmoil going. Now, this emotional turmoil is in two aspects. If you see, there is a traumatic reaction in two sides. One, the patient's attenders. So the patient, something is going to happen to the patient. There's a traumatic reaction happening between the patient and the attenders. One. Second, there's a traumatic reaction happening for you as a healthcare personnel. You are the attending doctor or nurse. You are going to be seeing that, and that itself is a trauma for you. So the first three parts, what I've written is, so you have to, it's very difficult with all this death happening everywhere. You have to prepare the family members for the worst possible outcomes. All of us know that the patients are very sick. And so you have to tell them, be very clear with your communication. Tell them that no, whatever is happening, very frankly, be very clear, communicate clearly to them. It will be easier for you to handle this stress, especially. Second is breaking bad news. For everybody and anybody, breaking bad news is very difficult. In this pandemic time, it's even more difficult because you are wearing the PPE kit. You're not able to show your emotions, your gestures. You only have to show, only your eyes and your hand gestures can be used. And no, showing that empathetically is very, very difficult during this tough time. So even the attenders sometimes might not understand, they think that you're behaving rudely, or, they think that, you don't care, considering, the amount of PPE you are wearing, they don't understand at that point of time. Sometimes just facilitating their grief would be just to listen to them. They might be saying whatever they want to say. You just have to listen to them. Why this emotional turmoil occurs is because of the traumatic reaction between two parties. These are the 5 stages of grief. In these 5 stages of grief, the first stage is denial. So even you, when some patient dies, you're like, how did this patient die? What happened? And then you're angry, all these medicines were given, it was not given, or whatever be it. There will be some anger. Then you'll be like overwhelmed. My God, I'm useless. What's the point? Then you go into a state of depression. Then finally you accept, and then you have to. That is how life is. This is your reaction. Now, you will be in the ICU and you will declare the death. So you would have crossed stage 1, 2, and 3 by the time you come to the patient or the attender. The patient attenders will be there outside. So you have come to stage 4, basically, by the time you come and meet the attender. And you're breaking the bad news to the attender. When you're breaking the bad news to the attender, the attenders will be in the first stage now, stage of denial. And then they'll be like, no, how can it be? You just told me in the morning they are fine, but now you're saying the patient is dead and things like that. Second, anger. That is where the rift occurs. See, you are already in the stage of depression. You're already down. You already feel bad. You have done your best. But the patient attenders are in the stage of anger. They are in the second stage of grief. And they start blaming you, saying, no, you didn't do properly. This was not given. That was not given. That is the worst thing what you have done. You are not good. So when they start blaming you with things like that, that is when there is a rift between us. And we find it very difficult because we are in the depressive state. They are in the anger state. Both of you are undergoing grief in different ways. Both of you are in different stages of grief, basically. The timing is different. Maybe the stages are the same, but the timing is different. So we also have to understand that they are in a different stage. So for that, and for all of this process to calm down, or for you to be able to be less anxious, the most important step which you have to do is self-care. If the first 3 stages, what you're doing is for the patient, the last step is for you. For any death or any grief reaction or any difficult situation, you do all these 3 for them. The final, if you're not able to do self-care, or if you're not able to take care of yourself, you will not be able to do this again and again. So you will have to, please don't blame yourself, and you have to move on from this stage of grief. That's where the acceptance comes. If you're going to be sticking into the stage 4 of depression, or if you're going to be bargaining and being overwhelmed, or you're going to get angry with the attenders or with something else, you're going to be sticking there and you won't be going forward, where it's going to create more self and you'll be blaming yourself. So please don't blame yourself. Please move on. To move on, you need to do self-care. And in the further slides, I will give you a few examples of how you can do self-care to come out from this emotional turmoil. The next is compassion fatigue. I think all of us as doctors, we are not rocks, we are not walls, we are human beings. We have a heart. Even though you have to declare a death, we feel bad because we are compassionate, and we are compassionate thinking maybe that could be my mother, or that could be anybody will have. However strong you are, you will tend to connect it to your family member or to somebody else. So it's normal. Acknowledge. If you feel sad, oh God, how did this happen? It's normal to acknowledge your emotion. You cannot be strong enough. You can be a male, you can be a female, you can be anybody. There is no harm in you acknowledging and normalizing your emotion. Accept your emotion in the first place. The second and the most important thing is also to break and release your emotions. You cannot keep everything inside. If you're angry, try to vent it out in some other ways. I will give you some examples in what way you can vent out things. Try to bring it out. Don't keep it inside, because this emotional turmoil of again and again, you're going to see a death, and it's going to accumulate and accumulate, and one fine day it's going to burst, either creating hell for you or for the people around you. So please, then and there, release your emotions. The most important thing is you have to practice. Practice what? Self-compassion. What is self-compassion? Self-compassion is understanding yourself in the first place. You can't tell that I am useless, I didn't do anything, this is my mistake, I should have been better. You can't play blame game over here. Have to also understand that you are only human. This is all you can do with all the resources available. I have done my best. I have tried my best. Or is there something to learn from it? Yes, if there's something to learn from it, take it forward. But there is no point in you not accepting your emotion. Feel your emotions. It's very important to understand and feel. Are you sad? Are you angry? Are you frustrated? Sometimes we don't understand our own emotions because we don't express or we are not able to identify. Plus, please identify your emotions and reach out for support. There is no harm in just taking a call and calling and speaking to somebody and just telling how you are feeling. Could be your friend, could be your family. There's a lot of helpline numbers which I will be giving you further down. Just give a call, get out the stress, and then give yourself some space, which is very, very important. If you're not going to give yourself space, you won't be able to go forward. So the compassion also becomes a fatigue at this point of time in this pandemic. Having compassion, wanting to do good is good, but you get fatigued, and you should also know that taking care of yourself is the first step. It's a tough time for everybody, and especially for you people. If you see, it's very difficult. So the first thing would be to get everybody's morale up. Make sure that you have daily meetings. See, there are 3 shifts happening in GH as far as I know, night shift and 2 day shifts, I think. So what happens is sometimes which happens in the previous shift, you don't know. Once you come into the shift, there's a death happening. And then you don't know how to express experience. It's difficult. They'll blame you or whatever be it. It's always better to get the handover properly. Be very clear in what is happening and boost everyone's morale inside the group. It's not like your shift had the death, my shift had the end of the day, it's a patient. So try to boost everybody up inside, have daily meetings with the team, boost their morale. Some of them might be strong enough to handle. Not everybody is strong. So look out for your friends. Your colleagues might need extra help. Maybe they don't have such a good social support, or maybe their spouse is not very understanding, or maybe they already have a borderline mental health issues. See if they need extra help. See what you can do. Maybe you can help in some way. Just talk to them, pat at the back, say a hi. It might definitely help. Do not blame. Everybody is frustrated. It is like, it's overwhelming to see what is happening, and don't blame. It's your mistake. It's my mistake. It might be mistakes, but we have to learn from these experiences and see what can be done and how we can do further. Do not put your frustration on juniors and peers. It's very difficult, and there is a hierarchy, and that is how it is over here. But just because you are frustrated and you are angry, you don't take care of yourself, or you are not compassionate to yourself, you can't blame a junior, or you cannot blame your peer for doing the mistake. So make sure that this is a very, very tough time, but all this probably can help reduce your frustration. The most important thing is, after you finish your duty, before you could go home, take 5 minutes, sit down, remove your PPE, just close your eyes, take 5 minutes in the place wherever you are sitting and think about this. This is the NHS in UK has got a checklist which is given. I've taken it from there. It says, take a moment to think about the day. That day, whether it's easy, difficult, whatever be it, just think from morning to here, what did I do? How did it go? Next, acknowledge one thing which was very difficult. Maybe the patient died. Maybe the medicine was not available. Let it go. Leave it there in the hospital. Don't take it home. Sorry, 1 minute. So just leave it there. Let it go. The next thing what you have to do is think of 3 things that went well. I'm sure there would be 3 things. Maybe the ICU patient has shifted to the ward. Maybe today some patients got better. Maybe some attender came and said, good, thank you so much. The son is very happy. Definitely think of 3 things which have gone well, and there will be 3 things which have gone well that day. Then please check on your colleagues. There might be some who probably need help. Maybe they are not asking, or maybe you can see how they, what sort of help you can give them. And also see whether you are okay. Are you okay? Do you need to talk to somebody, or do you need help? There are helplines. Give a call, talk to them, manage your emotions, your feelings, and then go back home. The most important thing is when you go home, it's like an on and off switch. Enter the hospital, on the on switch. While leaving the hospital, please off the switch and then go. Don't go home with all the baggage, with all the negativity, with all the COVID issues back home. When you go back home, make sure that you are spending time, quality time with your children. Shift, think about your house, think about your children, think about the positive things, what you can do, the bonding, what you can spend. Think of the positive things than obsessing about the negative things once you are going to go home. And rest and recharge is most important. You need adequate sleep. If you don't get sleep, also is very difficult. So make sure you're getting your sleep and you don't binge watching or with the mobile or the TV continuously, and reduce on your sleep because you need to manage the next day as well. These are a few points which you can do before leaving your changing room from the hospital. Many of us are undergoing Zoom fatigue. Like today, I don't know how many of you are tired and we're forced to come and join this meeting. So, but the same way, there's a lot of meetings happening. There are a lot of calls going on in Zoom. Even inter-department meetings are happening in Zoom. So how can we help this fatigue? Sometimes if it's not very important, say no. Don't spend your time and energy. Sometimes try to use text-based or messages. If you have a meeting, try to make it very short. No, there's no point in simply talking about things in the meeting other than what is important. And also avoid multitasking. You cannot do a meeting, take a call, see a patient, and do everything at the same time. That's not practically possible. Schedule screen-free time. It's very important to schedule for yourself, because once you come home, if you're again on the screen, you won't be able to relax and rewind yourself as well. And stay informed. It's important to get information about the new ways of treatment, about what is happening in the hospital. But don't obsess. Don't keep checking your WhatsApp every time. Don't keep checking what's the message coming from the ward. Don't keep checking whether what is the news happening, how many deaths are going on. Don't obsess. Keep half an hour in the morning, half an hour in the evening, just to see whatever news you want to see. Throughout the day, don't keep obsessing. That is also creating a lot of issues in healthcare workers. This is just to touch upon. I think all of us know the next 3 slides are just for you to go with the continuation. So all of us know there is 3 types of stresses. The 3 types of stresses are positive, tolerable, and toxic. Positive is something which is good to you. Like, you get a little bit of increased heart rate, you start sweating, which is good for you. You're going to get something good out of it. Tolerable is to a certain extent, so that when there is a good family support or some other side support, you'll be able to come out of this sort of stress. And toxic is where it's happening continuously over and over again. We thought with the first wave, everything will be over. No, the second wave comes. Now with the second wave, there's deaths over deaths happening. So, this whole phase of pandemic is going into toxic phase for all you healthcare workers. So you need to come out of this toxic phase. The only other option is taking care of yourself and managing yourself. And you all know what are the effects on your body. You have these simple headaches and this depression and these heart attacks and a lot of other physical symptoms because of stress. And immunity. Very well, we know how much stress affects immunity. The immune cells get affected, and if there is no resilience, there is no adaptation, you will not be going to recovery. You will be, again, creating some or the other illness in your body. There'll be muscle tension. It becomes a vicious cycle. All of us know how stress and immunity gets affected. But now, do we know what the symptoms are? Do we always feel that, feeling stressed and anxious and depressed is, you really are that, where you need to go and see the psychiatrist or you need to go and see the doctor? I'm not like that. I don't have that problem. I'm able to sleep well. I'm able to do my normal things well. But with this pandemic, according to Nimans and St. John's, from where I've taken most of today's things, they have given a few more symptoms or signs which can be picked up easily. Like in distress and anxiety, you see there will be excessive worry about contracting the infection. All of us are worried, obviously. And, we are scared. We feel sad. We feel like crying. Sometimes unnecessarily we feel like crying. Why are we feeling like crying? We are not able to give an explanation. These are a few symptoms which are being seen. Feeling very nervous, sweaty, I know when the ambulance siren is coming, the patient is coming. Oh my God, what's going to happen? You start getting very nervous and anxious. You get restless. Sometimes it's difficult to even sit. You start shaking your hands and legs. You want to move around. You're not able to sit in one particular state of time for a longer period of time. Even this is to a certain extent of anxiety. Feeling incompetent at work. You keep thinking, oh, I'm useless. I can't do anything. What's the point? Every patient who's coming to me is dying. There is no point. And you also get annoyed and irritable very easily. Either you put it down on your family or on your peers or on your colleagues or on your juniors. You know, every small thing triggers you and you get very annoyed. These are all symptoms of distress, stress, and anxiety. And also, the other main thing is also about this media. There's so much of media happening. How many days lockdown? Is the shop open? And is this virus to finish? There's a third wave coming. It's going to affect the children. And you keep obsessing about news sometimes which is not true and which is affecting us as well. Which is affecting us as well. There's a lot of media and obsession and fear. And also this lack of sleep and sometimes this decreased appetite. All these are some symptoms which we can pick up. We don't need to have very big symptoms to assess ourselves or take help or seek help or try to see what we can do within ourselves. And all of us or some of us feel, or we keep telling in our mouth that we are fine, I'm fine. But then our brain keeps saying, no, something is wrong. I want to do this to myself. Or, I'm feeling anxious. I feel like hitting something or breaking something. This is what most of us say. So suicidal thoughts and plans also sometimes are there in some people. These are a few symptoms. Other symptoms is sleep disturbances. No, you're having a lot of difficulty in initiating sleep. I'm going to the bed, I'm not getting sleep. Then what we do, we take the phone and we start. And all of us know that the hormone melatonin is needed for sleep. And more the light and more any bright products, that hormone won't be secreted. And then our sleep gets delayed again. So if you don't get sleep, the first thing you have to do is take off all instruments from your place of sleep, make your room more darker, try to be more calm and try some mindfulness. I will give you some ideas of mindfulness down the lane. And also there's frequent and early morning wakings. They get up in the middle of the night and they're not able to get back to sleep. Or getting up very early, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, there's a waking and then they're not able to go back to sleep again. Hearing of sirens of ambulances, ICU monitors, sometimes you keep hearing that and then you get up suddenly and you're not able to go back to sleep. And morning you get up, you still feel you're so tired and you haven't slept properly. Even these are a few symptoms and signs which you can see. And also you are carrying the whole burden of all these patients affected, taking care of them, and you're doing everything possible you can do. And then what happens? Substance use. Having a social drink once in a while, having a smoke once in a while, some of them think it's fine, they have it. But during this time, because of the stress, there's an increase in the quantity as well as in the frequency of especially alcohol and tobacco in many of healthcare workers, because they feel stressed. That's not the way to deal with it, because this is not going to end today and tomorrow, and this might definitely create further problems. Burnout. What is burnout? Burnout, all of us are talking about burnout these days. So burnout is a stage where you're completely emotionally exhausted. I cannot handle this anymore. I cannot take another death. I'm feeling like crying the whole time. Depersonalization. That is, you completely lose empathy. You feel like, I'm useless. Or, that compassion is not there for self or sometimes even to others. It's a decreased sense of accomplishment. You think that, no, that's it. I'm not able to do anything. I'm useless. I'm worthless. And I'm sure most of you have undergone this stage of burnout. And, you need at least some sort of mild help, if not major help during this burnout. And there are very few and easy techniques which you can do yourselves to come out of this burnout. And what you have to do, don't let it grow. Don't push it away. Please express it and nip it in the bud. This is the self-help check questionnaires. There are these three, that is PHQ-9, GAD-7 and DAS-21. There are a few more also available. The first two are very easy for you to do. You can do it by yourself. And this is available freely on the internet. You just have to put it in the Google and you will probably get it out. And it also has a very simple scoring. It asks you questions like, how much of interest do you have in doing things? Are you feeling down? Are you feeling depressed? Very simple questions. You can answer and score it. And it has four divisions. That is, it's not difficult at all, somewhat difficult, very difficult, extremely difficult. I'm sure if you're not at all difficult, I don't think you need any much of help, but self-care is essential for anybody. Somewhat difficult and very difficult. We can try a few of the techniques which I'll be explaining to you now. And when it comes to extremely difficult, I'm sure you need some extra help. So you can do it yourself and check where you are or where do you stand, or are you really anxious? When to go for help? Do you think all health issues are self-limiting? Do you think that you can manage all this by yourself? To a certain extent, yes, we can, because we have been built to manage and work in stressful situations. And yes, we will be able to manage to a certain extent, definitely. But what is the criteria? Symptoms or abnormal past behavior for more than 2 weeks. And if there is symptoms that are troublesome to self or to others, and if the symptoms doesn't allow you to function or do your daily life activities, definitely you need help, and please go and ask for help. Most of the time we are so upset, but then you should remember that once the patients finish off the 5 stages of grief, they may not forget your name, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. To make them feel happy, to make them feel satisfied, you need to be satisfied and contented with yourself. Are you? That is the question. This is just a slide to make us understand. What do we remember? In the laws of remembering, it says you remember what you recently heard. So tomorrow, I'm sure if somebody asks you what I spoke today or 1 or 2 points, I'm sure you'll remember. How frequently have you heard it? That you'll remember. And if it's very dramatically impacted, that is what is happening. Lot of deaths happening with lot of impact, and that you're going to remember for a long time. And how much of application, how much are you using it? That's how you remember. So you have to remember that this is very impactful time for all of you, and you are going to remember this for a long time. So how can you get it down or erase it or not affect you? And the loss of forgetting, if you remember, if you see, 50% you forget immediately, 75% you will forget in 2 months, and only 25 you remember. Out of the 25, there will be 60% of extra things which we add on. This is our actual law of remembering and actual law of forgetting. So remember that, the impactness is very important. So you have to make sure you get all your emotions in state. How many thoughts do we actually think per day? Can you tell or can you guess? It's between 5 to 60,000 thoughts your brain thinks per day. Okay. And out of this, 85% thoughts are negative thoughts. So you can imagine how strong you need to be psychologically and mentally to push down this 85% of this negative thoughts and the rest 15% positive thoughts to make you push you through this day and make you tell that life is good and life is happy. So how can we do this? By taking self-care. What is self-care now? I'm going on talking about self-care from the first slide. Self-care is taking care of yourself, and all of us think that that's a big mistake. You going alone and eating something what you like, oh my God, how can I leave my children and my husband? Or if the husband wants to go out and spend some time, how can I do that leaving my family? Or if youngsters want to spend little extra money to eat something to a certain extent for yourself to make you feel happy, that is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation. That is to preserve yourself to manage these tough situations. So how can you manage yourself? You should have a regular routine. Tomorrow, the next week is going to be your on call or you're going to be in the COVID ward. Make sure you prepare simple things, getting your clothes ready, get it ironed or whatever. And make sure that your things are there in the house. You come back at night late, you have some food in the house. Simple things, just make sure you have a routine. Ensure you get your break, you get adequate sleep. Make sure you have touch with friends and relatives. Even though you're isolated, thank God for the phone and video call. We should be able to do that. Also, you can do activities and hobbies which is unrelated to work. Don't keep talking about the same thing. Exercise regularly. If you're a religious person, I'm sure this also will help you to a certain extent. Make time, quality time with your family and children. Don't keep talking about COVID. It's unnecessary. This is one thing which I felt was very helpful for all of you. have a small bag where you can have something called a self-care kit. All of us know about the 5 senses. 5 senses are, as we know, we need to know first is touch. So keep something soft, something which you like, maybe something which you can feel or touch, which you can keep it. I know some people who like to keep pressing those bubble wrappers and keep breaking, or something which you like, just keep it in a small pouch. That is for your touch feeling. Second is taste. Keep your favorite snack, maybe a chocolate, maybe a biscuit. Keep it in that pouch or a small bag aside. Keep a picture of your family vacation or something which you really like, or a flower. Make a song list or keep a few songs which you love to hear in your mobile, and smell some smell which you like, maybe a perfume, maybe a just a candle or something like that. Make this kit, keep all this in a bag and keep it with you all the time. When you're really stressed, go try to take one of this, or try to calm yourself down. It will definitely help you to calm, at least for that period of time. You will be able to do something much bigger. This probably might definitely help you when you are in a in a ward, or when you're somewhere you can't go out anywhere, but there is something at least what you like, you can just take, rejuvenate and come back. Mindfulness is very, very important for us. What do you mean by mind? As I told you, there are so many thoughts. For that, sometimes you go to a place and say, why did I come here? What did I actually do? I was not sure why I came actually. That is what we need to do to get your mindfulness. Remove all those thoughts and try to be oriented to place and time. That's what we say when the patient comes, we have to check the patient, right? Same way, you also have to be oriented to the place, to the time, to your feeling, to your setting. First, you have to anchor yourself. Sit down, close your eyes, keep your legs on the floor, and see if you can start feeling your toes. Concentrate on the movement of your toes. Try to think and anchor and be in that place and orient yourself to the place and time. Breathing also helps. We all breathe every time, but pursed lip breathing, that is breathing in and blowing out through your lips, that also helps you to concentrate more. There are even other forms of breathing. I have put a few this one in the resources where you can go in and see. There's quite a few of exercises given for mindfulness. It will help you to give positive thinking. It will help you relax. You'll be able to spend some time with nature. Also will help you for mindfulness. This is muscle relaxation. Try to taut your muscles, maybe your biceps, relax. Keep contracting and relax. That will help you understand how much taut you are. Meditation. Some silent music, meditate for some time, also help. You can also tell this mentally. Close your eyes, breathe and say, inhaling, breathing in peace and calm. And you can also say, exhaling tension and anxiety. When you use words through your mouth, when you meditate, your mind doesn't wander. It tries to be in one place. Okay. So these are a few techniques, and in more detail, probably if you all want a session, you all can ask us and we can probably get a psychologist to do the session further in detail for you. Journaling. What is journaling? Journaling also helps you to write things, helps you to get your thoughts in place. It's something called jar of hope. What is jar of hope? Whenever you have something happy, you have some nice moments, something nice, write it down and put it inside this jar. And whenever you feel really overwhelmed, tired, angry, distressed, take out the chits and read. I'm sure you'll have a laugh or a smile because you would have forgotten about those small things which you would have enjoyed at that point of time and forgotten. Try this, might help. And also you can write in a book. Just take a book and write, what made me smile today? What were the good things which happened? Or what were the tough things which happened today? Write it down. Writing it down in any way, we are not worried about your grammar and everything. Brings all your thoughts into one place and releases those emotions. It also helps you. What are the things I look forward to? Tomorrow, what's going to happen? You can also write something in forward also, will probably help you to put your thoughts in place. Journaling is also a very, very good way of self-care and trying to get your emotions out. Get moving. All of us know endorphins are good for us. Exercise help us. And now with this tough time, going out is not possible. Do something simple. There's a WHO guide of exercise. You can just put it comes in Google. There's some workouts, just simple stretching, walks, cycling, simple things which you can do just for 5, 10 or 15 minutes also will probably help you to go through the day, get some endorphins, will give you some positive things to do. These are a few resources which I have put down. Most of the resources are from Nimans and from St. John's. And the first two, one is Pandemic Kindness, which will probably help you to see about the other thing about breathing and sleep and, and nutrition and things like that. Smiling Mind is about mindfulness. And the others are for exercise and meditation and yoga. You can just go through this and see if you probably might get some ideas from it. All of us say we are very busy, and that is true. We are busy. So you kept telling doctor, you do this self-care, you do that. It's not easy. We don't have the time. That's what we keep saying. So next time when you say there is no time for self-care and you say you're busy, think about this. B is better get help. If you're busy, get some help. You'll get some time for self-care. You unimportant things, you let go. I'm sure you'll get some time for self-care. S is sleep. If you get your good sleep, I'm sure you'll be able to manage problems much better. Why? You can do it. I'll explain it to you better. You are not a superman or superwoman. You can always ask help from family, from friends. Just put your hand forward. There is no harm in taking help. Nobody is going to call you a coward. The thing is that we find it very down or uneasy when we want to ask for help. Other one is unimportant things. Most of the times we are more worried about that. There's somebody called energy vampires. These are the people, when you talk to them, they suck your energy and you feel broken. You feel like, this is not worth it at all. But there are few people when you talk to, you feel energy, you feel full of energy. Make sure you throw these energy vampires, whoever identify them around you and try to push them away from you. The more you keep them, more your energy is going to go, more self-care you will need. So try not to keep too much of negativity around you and focus on the important things. Sometimes the room might be messy today. Probably you're not able to wash your clothes today. That's okay. Just take a coffee, spend some time for yourself. There's no hurry in folding the clothes today. More important is your care. Maybe washing the clothes, folding, some small things. It's okay. Ignore it. All the time you can't expect to do it perfectly. Take the time to take care of yourself and preserve yourself. Sleep is very, very important. We all know without sleep, our brain doesn't work properly. We'll make more mistakes. We won't be able to give the best for our patient. So by you depriving on sleep and going to do something else, having 2-3 shifts, 2-3 duties and trying to, run over is not going to help you, nor going to help the patient. Most important thing is why. You come first. So you have to make sure that you take care of yourself. Even if you want to help, if you are empty, if you are tired, I'm sure you cannot do anything. So you have to make sure that you can't pour from an empty cup. Please fill yourself first. So if you're busy, take care of yourself first, then think about doing things for others. This is a mental health support, Pathways Foundation Kobe, where I work. I work as a child and adolescent specialist, where we are handling mainly parenting problems for children, and as well as families, youth and families. We have a support line here. So if anybody wants to talk to us, healthcare workers, anybody wants to have any problems or anything, you're free to call. And one of our team, we have psychologists, we have our whole team, a psychiatrist, one of us will get back to you and give you some help. And this is what we do from Pathways Foundation Kobe. As well as we have Dr. Net Abhirami and Arvindan. They are doing Makkal Udavi Mayam, which is with coordination with Makkal Nalvalu Mayam as well, and Dr. Net. So even they have their helpline. You can call them as well. So you can get some help. Just talk. If you don't need any major problem. This is not a stigma. By calling and saying, I just want to talk to you, I just want to release my emotions, there is no harm. Nobody is going to judge you and nobody is going to know about it as well. So these are the two things which we are doing, as well as I have put down helpline numbers of all the other things. If you don't want or not comfortable talking to people who you know, I mean, you will not know us anyway, but if you want anybody else, I have put up these slides. You can take pictures of these, as well as you can also, I'll try to put it in a WhatsApp group maybe, and you all can circulate it so that you can always take help. I have put it in a few slides so that you all can have a look at it and take help. And what I need to say is that wherever you are, start from where you are. You think you need help, please take help. You need to do some journaling or some mindfulness at home, Please try it today. Don't wait for tomorrow. Use what you have. Whatever resources you have, use that and do what you can. We are very proud of what you all are doing. And I'm sure each one of you are doing your best and more than that in this pandemic time. And we all are very happy and proud. And we pray for your safety of mind, health, and body. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share today.